Caria was a region of western Anatolia extending along the coast from mid-Ionia, south to Lycia and east to Phrygia. The Ionian and Dorian Greeks colonized the west of it and joined the Carian population in forming Greek-dominated states there. The inhabitants of Caria, known as Carians, had arrived there before the Greeks. They were described by Herodotus as being of Minoan descent, while the Carians themselves maintained that they were Anatolian mainlanders intensely engaged in seafaring and were akin to the Mysians and the Lydians. The Carians did speak an Anatolian language, known as Carian, which does not necessarily reflect their geographic origin, as Anatolian once may have been widespread. Also closely associated with the Carians were the Leleges, which could be an earlier name for Carians or for a people who had preceded them in the region and continued to exist as part of their society in a reputedly second-class status. Municipalities of Caria. Kramer's detailed catalogue of Carian towns in classical Greece is based entirely on ancient sources. The multiple names of towns and geomorphic features, such as bays and headlands, reveal an ethnic layering consistent with the known colonization. Coastal Caria begins with Didyma south of Miletus, but Miletus had been placed in the pre-Greek Caria. South of it is the Iathicus Sinus and the towns of Iasis and Bargelia, giving an alternative name of Bargileticus Sinus to Guluk or Fezi, and nearby Sindi, which the Carians called Andanis. After Bargelia is Carianda or Carianda, and then on the Bodrum Peninsula Mindus, 56 miles from Miletus. In the vicinity is Natsiandus, exact location unknown. On the tip of the Bodrum Peninsula is Termira, and on the other side Ceramicus Sinus. It was formerly crowded with numerous towns. Halicarnassus, a Dorian Greek city, was planted there among 6 Carian towns. Theangela, Sibda, Medmassa, Uranium, Pedisar or Pedsum, and Telmissus. These with Mindus and Sinagala constitute the 8 Lelege towns. Also on the north coast of the Ceramicus Sinus is Ceramis and Bargassus. On the south of the Ceramicus Sinus is the Carian Chersonese, or Triopian promontory, also called Doris after the Dorian colony of Cnidus. At the base of the peninsula is Bybassus or Bybastis, from which an earlier names, the Bybasia Chersonese, had been derived. It was now Acanthus and Doulopolis. South of the Carian Chersonese is Dorodais Sinus, the Gulf of Doris, the locale of the Dorian Confederacy. There are 3 bays in it: Bubisius, Thymnias and Chernus, the last enclosing the town of Hyder. In the Gulf somewhere are Euthene or Eutane, Pitium, and an island, Elias or Eliasa near Laurimi. On the south shore is the Cynosema, or Onognathos promontory, opposite Sima. South of there is Peria, a section of the coast under Rhodes. It includes Laurime or Larimna and Edemus Bay, Gelus, Tisanusa, the headland of Peridion, Panidorn or Pandion with Physicus, Amos, Physcar or Phiscus, also called Cressa. Beyond Cressa is the Calbus River. On the other side is Cornus, with Pisalis or Pilasis and Pyrnos between. Then follow some cities that some assigned to Lydia and some to Caria. Calindra on the Indus River, Caria, Carasis or Carian Alina in the Gulf of Glaucus, the Glaucus River being the border. Other Carian towns in the Gulf are Clida or Lydai and Enos. Inland Caria at the base of the east end of Latmus near Selamia was the district of Euromus or Eurome, possibly Europus, formerly Idrias and Chrysaorus, apparently the ethnic center of non-Hellenic Caria. The name Chrysaorus once applied to all of Caria. Moreover, Euromus was originally settled from Lycia. Its towns are Tauropolis, Plarissar and Chrysaorus. These were all incorporated later into Mylisar. Connected to the latter by a sacred way is Labranda. Around Stratonicia is also Lagina or Lakenar as well as Tendabar and Astragan. Further inland towards Zidon is Alabanda, noted for its marble and its scorpions, Orthosia, Cocinia or Cocinus on the upper meander, and Halidensis, Elinda or Elena. At the confluence of the meander and the Harpasus is Harpasa. At the confluence of the meander and the Orcinus, Corsimus or Corsinus is Antioch on the meander, and on the Orcinus in the mountains a border town with Phrygia, Gordia Tichos near Gaia. Founded by the Leleges and called Nino, it became Megalopolis and Aphrodisias, sometime capital of Caria. Other towns on the Orcinus are Timla and Plarissa. Taba was at various times attributed to Phrygia, Lydia and Caria, and seems to have been occupied by mixed nationals. Caria also comprises the headwaters of the Indus and Eria or Ariush and Thabution on the border with the small state of Sabira. Pre-Hellenic states and people. The name of Caria appears in a number of early languages. Hittite Karkia, Babylonian Kasa, Elamite and Old Persian Kirka. Allegedly, the region received the name of Caria from Kar, an ancestral hero of the Carians, sovereign state hosting the Greeks. Caria arose as a Neo-Hittite kingdom around the 11th century BC. The coast of Caria was part of the Doric Hexapolis when the Dorians arrived after the Trojan War in the last and southernmost waves of Greek migration to western Anatolia's coastline and occupied former Mycenaean settlements such as Knidos and Halicarnassos. Herodotus, the famous historian, was born in Halicarnassus during the 5th century BC, but Greek colonization touched only the coast and the interior remained Carian, organized in a great number of villages grouped in local federations. The Iliad records that at the time of the Trojan War, the city of Miletus belonged to the Carians, and was allied to the Trojan cause. Lempriere notes that, as Caria probably abounded in figs, a particular sort has been called carica, and the words incar periculum facere have been proverbially used to signify the encountering of danger in the pursuit of a thing of trifling value. The region of Caria continues to be an important fig-producing area to this day, accounting for most fig production in Turkey, which is the world's largest producer of figs. Lydian province. The expansionism of Lydia under Croesus incorporated Caria briefly into Lydia before it fell before the Persian advance. Persian satrapy. Caria was then incorporated into the Persian Achaemenid Empire as a satrapy in 545 BC. The most important town was Halicarnassus, from where its sovereigns reigned. Other major towns were Latmus, refounded as Heraclea under Latmus, Antiochia, Mydos, Laodicea, Elinda and Alabanda. Caria participated in the Ionian revolt against the Persian rule. During the Second Persian invasion of Greece, the cities of Caria were allies of Xerxes I, and they fought at the Battle of Artemisium and the Battle of Salamis. Themistocles, before the battles of Artemisium and Salamis, tried to split the Ionians and Carians from the Persian coalition. He told them to come and be on his side or not to participate of the battles. But if they were bound down by too strong compulsion to be able to make revolt when the battles begin, to be purposely slack. Plutarch in his work, The Parallel Lives, at the life of Themistocles wrote that, Phanias writes that the mother of Themistocles was not a Thracian, but a Carian woman and her name was Euterpe. And Neanthus adds that she was from Halicarnassus in Caria. After the unsuccessful Persian invasion of Greece, the cities of Caria became members of the Delian League. Halicarnassus was the location of the famed mausoleum dedicated to Mausolus, a satrap of Caria between 377–353 BC, by his wife, Artemisia II of Caria. The monument became one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world, and from which the Romans named any grand tomb a mausoleum. Macedonian Kingdom. Caria was conquered by Alexander III of Macedon in 334 BC with the help of the former queen of the land Ada of Caria, who had been dethroned by the Persian Empire and actively helped Alexander in his conquest of Caria on condition of being reinstated as queen. After their capture of Caria, she declared Alexander as her heir. Roman Byzantine province. As a part of the Roman Empire, the name of Caria was still used for the geographic region, but the territory administratively belonged to the province of Asia. During the administrative reforms of the 4th century, this province was abolished and divided into smaller units. Caria became a separate province as part of the Diocese of Asia. Christianity was on the whole slow to take hold in Caria. The region was not visited by St. Paul, and the only early churches seem to be those of Laodicea and Colossae on the extreme inland fringe of the country, which itself pursued its pagan customs. It appears that it was not until Christianity was officially adopted in Constantinople that the new religion made any real headway in Caria. Dissolution under the Byzantine Empire and passage to Turkish rule. In the 7th century, provinces were abolished and the new theme system was introduced. The region corresponding to ancient Caria was captured by the Turks under the Medes dynasty in the early 13th century. There are only indirect clues regarding the population structure under the Medes and the parts played in it by Turkish migration from inland regions and by local conversions. But the First Ottoman Empire census records indicate, in a situation not atypical for the region as a whole, a large Muslim majority reaching as high as 99% and a non-Muslim minority as low as 1%. One of the first acts of the Ottomans after their takeover was to transfer the administrative center of the region from its millenary seat in Milas to the then much smaller Mughla, which was nevertheless better suited for controlling the southern fringes of the province. Still named Mentees until the early decades of the 20th century, the Khazars corresponding to ancient Caria are recorded by sources such as G. Soteriadis and S. Anagiostopoula as having a Greek population averaging at around 10% of the total, ranging somewhere between 12 to 18,000. Many of them reportedly recent immigrants from the islands. Most chose to leave in 1919, before the population exchange. Episcopal sees. Ancient episcopal sees of Caria listed in the Annuario Pontificio as titular sees: Alabanda, Olinda, Amizone, Anatetata, Antiochia ad Meandrum, Apollonia Salbase, Bagilia, Halicarnassus, Syramus, Sabira, Sidramus, Cnidus, Erizar, Harpasa, Heracli ad Latmum, Heracli Salbase, Hieron, Hilurima, Iasus, Lorime, Mataba, Miletus, Milisar, Mindus, Neapolish in Caria, Orthosias in Caria, Stadia, Storypolish, Stratonicia in Caria, Taba, Tapasar,